Okay, so both of my pieces are pressed now. So my seam allowance is up towards the facing. I'm now going to utilize my understitch seam technique. So on the facing side, I am going to add a row of stitching, trapping the seam allowance to the facing. What this does is it really reinforces the seam, so it adds another level of like stitch protection to the seam allowance. It also controls the direction of the seam allowance so that it's not like flopping up, down inside the garment. It's going to be forever trapped upward. So I'm going to line up, kind of find like a visual marker on my machine. So this seam is going to get aligned with the inner prong of my foot. And I'm going to stitch and backstitch, capturing the facing and the 2 layers of seam allowance. I like my understitch to be about 1/8 of an inch away. Even 1/4 looks good. So it's really like a personal preference. If you like it a little bit wider, maybe if your fabric or your thread is a heavier thread, wider definitely looks good. It's very utilitarian. Closer to the actual stitch line is very garment forward. So thinking about what kind of effect do you want on your tote bag, right? Are you also sewing with like a contrasting thread? Does that give it a different effect than using a same colored thread? Okay. All right. So with my first understitch done, this looks great. My seam is right here. Might be a little hard to see, but my understitch is there. On the back, you'll be able to see those 2 lines of stitching. So they are pretty close together here. But my seam allowance is perfectly trapped upwards towards the facing. So this will reinforce the bag when we start to put a lot of weight in it. If I'm carrying like my lunch in it, or maybe some books, maybe a plant, you never know. All right, so same exact process. I'll do this one a little bit further away. So I'll line it up with the middle of that prong just to give myself some space. And slow and steady wins the race on this one. If you are a perfectionist and like to seam rip until you get it perfectly level, I definitely understand. Okay. All right. This is great. I think my first one was like more of like a 1/16 of a way. It's 1/16 of an inch away from the seam. This is definitely like a true 1/8. I much prefer this. This looks great. I'm happy with this one. I'm glad I did it differently. Okay, so now that those 2 pieces are done, okay, I am going to put the faces together. So I'm going to put my right sides together, and I am going to stitch along the bottom. So my facings will be open. My facings are at the top of my bag. I'm leaving them alone. I'm stitching down this 18-inch seam, 18-inch long seam across the base of the the linings, joining them together. Okay, so stitching and back stitching at 1/2 inch. No, I'm not. I think my bobbin ran out. Some decorative red thread in here. Alright, so again, joining the lining pieces at the base. The face where they are attached to facings should be open. Oof. Sorry for the noise, it scared me. Okay, sorry for that noise. My heart is still going. So now that I have done that, the base of my lining piece is completed. So I have my base stitch line here, my facings are at the top. It is going to mirror what I did earlier with my shell, where I have that base bottom stitch line completed. When I put them against each other now, you'll see that they are exactly the same size. So the lining and the facing equal the shell when they are sewn, okay? And that's where we'll stop for tonight.